Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Rise of the Divine Feminine. I'm Cheryl Muir, and with me I have my good friend Patricia, Iris, Kerins, and today we're really going to be talking about what is happening within the Divine Feminine Collective. This is a really informal, relaxed chat. It's Sunday morning here for Patricia and I in England and Scotland. So, by all means, grab your cups of tea, your coffee, your journals. If you're in your pajamas still, or your sweatpants and your t-shirts, that's all good. This is a very relaxed open house digital town hall meeting. We don't have anything to sell you. We're not selling you on a program. There's no opt-ins. This is just really a public conversation about what is happening with anyone who identifies with this label of divine feminine. So we have a few conversation starters, Patricia and I, today. But before we do that, why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? So Patricia, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do if they haven't met you before?
Okay, well, thank you, Cheryl, and a warm welcome to everybody this morning. It's a beautiful autumn day, very, very frosty here, cold, so I'm really glad to be wrapped up warm in my beautiful house. So a bit of gratitude before we even begin. Yeah, the rise of the divine feminine. Well, I guess that's why I decided to come onto the planet, because really from the moment I arrived, I was dogged as a cheeky little so-and-so, and you don't need to say anything. We can read your face. So I was always speaking my truth from very small. And this is a generational thing. I'm talking about the 1950s. So you'll appreciate then, as I grew older, my mum and my dad would try to suppress me. Oh, you can't speak to that guy like that, your uncle so and so. Go and apologize now, and I'd be on the naughty set or the corner or whatever, because I was very outspoken. So what happened was I learned to internalize that. I learned to stuff it all down into my throat. And so what happened to me was itis, anger, inner anger, tonsillitis. Crikey, I can't even begin to tell you the number of times I got sore throats, tonsillitis, couldn't speak, laryngitis. And the rub was I was out singing. It became apparent that I had a singing career, good voice, la la la. So that's how it was for me to begin with. And even as I'm telling you all about this, I feel stuff in my throat. So, ladies, I really do have to share with you that, I've been working seriously on this stuff for 25 years. And what I'm telling you is there are still layers to peel away. Because the minute I start talking about my stuff, I still feel a little bit of restriction coming in. It's minuscule, but it's there. So there you are. There's my parental conditioning coming in. I had one or two really good teachers at school who would identify with, they used to say really encouraging things to me about my voice, about the way I spoke. One of them suggested that I really follow a drama school kind of acting and all that. And, that was very positive. But for the best part, I really was taught that women should be seen and not heard, and that we were very much secondary to the male in relationship and all of that. So, all these years on, looking back at that, it was powerful, because when you're just a wee squib, you haven't a clue. You're being molded. And of course, you're a wee sponge. You're taking it all in. And you're trying to please mummy and daddy and get a pat in the head. We all do it. We're trying to fit in and be what other people want us to be. And at some point, penny dropped. I thought, hey, my life isn't actually about pleasing all these other people. It's about me, loving me and pleasing me. So the rise of the divine feminine, it was there from word go, Cheryl, with me. Powerful, got me into a lot of bother. But now I know what I'm doing, thank goodness. What I love about working with you is You're from an entirely different generation to me. And you're coming in further down that road, and get excited if you're not excited, because I really do feel you girls are going to go out and rock it. Because a lot of us oldies, if you like, we've put in the kind of foundational work to this. And anything I do for me, I'm contributing to the collective. So I shot a whole lot of stuff up there, and boom, if it came down for Cheryl or Jane or Tracy or some of the other beautiful ladies on this call. And that is exciting. You know, and then I read, oh gosh, Facebook this week, Marianne Williamson.
Yes.
She's going to stand for presidency.
Yeah.
She's just so on our trolley. She is our trolley.
Yeah.
Our truth, yeah. And I thought, well, this is the pinnacle. If anybody needed any validation as to how the rise of the divine feminine, because the divine feminine is love and compassion. Make no mistake, it's unifying, it's harmonizing, it's beautiful. And all the time, we're balancing it with this masculine inside ourselves, because we love our masculine too. We've got to love him and to balance, but not give our power away to that aspect. So that's me. I've rabbited on long enough, but honestly, Cheryl, it's a great pleasure to work with you, really seriously.
Thank you.
So let's hear about you. How has it manifested for you?
Thank you, Patricia, for everything you shared there. And you know, as for how it manifested for me, I heard a lot of overlap and commonalities between some of the things you've experienced and some of the things I've experienced. And, you know, I was born in the 80s. I was born in 85. I'm 33, for those of you that don't do the maths. So I was born in the 80s when it was a slightly different generation. But as I'm saying this, and this is something that I perhaps haven't consciously said before or even consciously thought before, but what's coming through right now is the 80s was a very masculine time. It was a very masculine time. And perhaps subconsciously I was picking up on that energy, because one of my biggest struggles has been taming my masculine side. I've always been very, very in touch with my masculine side. I was in the corporate world for over a decade working in publicity, and I actually had a call with a beautiful soul sister friend of mine who I ended up having a podcast conversation with, a beautiful divine feminine called Sandy Vo, and we were having this very conversation, and she was talking about my former career, and she said, wow, that's so interesting, because that's such a masculine line of work and you're so feminine. So my rise, if you will, has been really marrying those two aspects of masculine and feminine. And I love that you talked about that, Patricia, because it's really important we're in touch with both. As feminines, we're really in touch with these higher chakras of the heart, the throat, the third eye and the crown. It's that I feel, I speak, I see, I know, and that's beautiful. But we've got these lower three chakras as well that are in charge of safety, security, motivation, willpower, drive, and they are all equally important. You mentioned Marianne Williamson. I'd love to touch on that further into our conversation. Make no mistakes about it, she is, like Patricia said, this divine feminine energy of being loving and compassionate. But that woman, she's not to be trifled with. She's strong, she's fiery, she's like a lioness. If you've seen some of her TED Talks, she's been thinking about this for a long time, I can tell you that. But she has this fire and this power in her, and the rise of the divine feminine is about, as Patricia said so beautifully, marrying those two aspects of ourselves. And once we've done that within ourselves, we have this inner union, and then we can do this work on the outside of looking for, perhaps, I do a lot of work with people who are trying to recover from relationships, if you will. They might have met someone who's a karmic partner or a twin flame or another one of these romantic catalysts. And so after we have this inner union within ourselves, then we are in a healthy place to go out and look for somebody to share that with, because we're in balance. Things start to go all right when we're not in balance ourselves and we look outside of ourselves for someone to complete us, and that's when a whole host of problems start for us. And that's really related to the work that I do, because that's been my biggest work. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about some of my journey, perhaps not specific in terms of what's happened. There's a lot, there's traumas and things that I've healed, but I don't think it's important to go into that here. Really my biggest work was marrying those two energies of masculine and feminine, and really being comfortable with that inner masculine of mine who sits on my shoulder going, what are we doing now? What are we doing now? He needs this intellectual food all the time and this activity. So it's really about taming him and being balanced within myself. So I hope that answers your question, Patricia, and gives you a bit of background about my experience, albeit in a different generation, but I think quite similar in a lot of ways.
Absolutely similar. And, you know, I'm just hearing about I call it the monkey mind, you know,
Yeah.
the little brain.
Yeah.
And the chatter, the incessant, you know, and if you buy into it, then you're going into the overthinking and into the mind, into the head, instead of staying in your heart, following your heart. And I have so been learning to do that these last couple of years, taking much more time away, time off, and only doing things when I really feel prompted to do so. But it's about loving that left brain. It's about loving that masculine and bringing him in. He's the support act, the protector. Yeah. And without that strategy, Cheryl, yeah, I mean, if we're putting an event out, you need strategy. It's not just going to happen. You've got to have all of that. But you know what I loved about what you said there was the fire of the divine feminine. Now then, the essence of that for me starts every day with meditation. I get my roots down. I'm a great one for putting a real big tap root down from the base of my spine, because there's the base chakra, right? Red, it's fiery. But what I do is I really connect with Mother Earth, because, you know, she's a living organism. She's feeding you on every level. And I pull up her golden energy and I fill and flood my chakra system with that. And with it comes the love power, the passion, and the purpose. Yeah, the 3 P's, okay? When you bring that right up into your whole being, you're filling your cellular structure with that. Now, there's the fire. And I'll tell you something, nobody would mess with me either. I'm with Marianne on that, because increasingly I find myself just speaking my truth. Here it is. Here's how it is. And detaching, allowing someone else to receive that on whatever level they need to hear it. I do it with love, but I do think sometimes one has to point things out. I feel I do. Don't overly do it. I'm not obnoxious, at least I don't think I am. But you know, it's about holding your power, standing in your power, knowing you're the only authority for you on the planet. Nobody else, not another skin, has divinity over you except that which is within you. And for that is the divine. I am an extension of the divine, of love, of all of that. And so that is working through all the time. So, yeah, I guess I've worked through letting go of so many limitations that were placed upon me by this patriarchal society. You know, you can see all the stuff that's kicking off with Me Too, all of that. Women speaking out now if they've been sexually harassed, all that kind of stuff. And I actually did that. I was in the corporate world too when I worked for one of the big banks, quite a senior position. That's the first thing that happened to me within a week or two of arriving. One of the management really tried it on with me and I reported it, you know, in full fear of, oh, gee, I'm going to lose my job here right away. In actual fact, the guy was fired because it was pretty bad. So that's going back to the 80s. You know, I felt the fear and I did it anyway. Yeah. So once we learn to just get rid of all the limitations, because the ancestral stuff, it comes down through your DNA. Yeah. It's about peeling away those layers, past life. I do a lot of past life regressions with people. And then I like to take them into a future life progression. You know, what's Cheryl going to be doing this time next year? watch this space, everybody. You know, but it's going to be fabulous. And we've got to get excited about that and not invest too much in the past.
Right.
Deal with it, let it go, sit in the future, do what your heart's calling you to do, and dream big about the future. That would be my life. I like that.
That's beautiful, Patricia. Thank you. And I've actually had a past life regression with Patricia, and it was divine. It's hard to put into words what an experience with Patricia is like. It's just absolutely beautiful. You feel so held and so taken care of, and she's been doing this for more than a minute. You know, she really knows her stuff and really has a beautiful command of the archangelic realm and the space of goddesses and that matriarchal line and helping to heal that. It's really, really beautiful. And I think we've already covered now what it means to rise and what it is we're talking about in terms of what we've individually experienced, our own individual rise. So why don't we now talk about what's happening in the collective, and let's really ground this down into very, very practical terms for people. Like, for example, what we're seeing in American politics at the moment, albeit, yes, we're in the UK, but what we're seeing in American politics with women rising up, with Marianne Williamson potentially running for president, this is enormous. I mean, Patricia, where do you want to go with this? What do you want to talk about with regards to this?
Wow. But I mean, it is overwhelming because I don't pretend for a moment everybody to understand American politics and
right.
all the rest of it. But all I was aware of, it was like a tsunami of women getting to high office. And what's more, they were coming from every colour, every creed. It was a joy to observe. I thought, wow. And you know, there used to be an old saying, I don't know if it's true now, but what's happening in America usually happens in Britain about 10 years later. But you know what? I feel it's not 10 years anymore. It's speeded up considerably. And we do have more women in politics here. But you know, a lot of my work is about helping women find their voice. So what happens once you find your voice? Once you harness the power of your truth, what do you do with it? Marianne's decided, okay, I'm going to be president. I'll put myself forward. So you have to have that chutzpah, don't you? It's back to your wild woman rising. She's going to come up. She's got to come up and come out. So what happens to stop that? You know, it can be fear. And it can be that collective fear apart from your own fear. So, you know, it's about acknowledging that, not living it, but dealing with that fear. And there are loads of methods of doing that, but getting rid of the fear. And you know, the biggest fear, here's a good affirmation for you all today. I release the need to have approval or to seek approval from anybody else on this planet.
Oh.
I
really want to repeat that for people. So I release the need to have approval from anybody else on this planet.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
It is powerful. You know, if you said to me tomorrow, Cheryl, okay, Patricia, I'm going for Prime Minister, I'd say, hey, go for it. Go for it. Your quote would say, oh, you know, but that's what I would say to you. And there are a lot of younger women like yourself just poising now. You've got it all. Beautiful intelligence, wisdom. You're articulate and you need to get out there. And, you know, obviously I'm helping women all the time get into their power, whether we're going to be an angel channel or a life coach or whatever. That's really what I do. And I've been successful at empowering women to get out there and be all they can be. And not, you see, it's this, I will not stick my head above the parapet because somebody might see me. We need to really get over that now. And you know, all this politics that's going on in Britain just now, I wouldn't agree with Theresa May's politics, to be clear.
Right.
However, I have to admire the woman's resilience because, wow, she's been stabbed not just in the back, she's been stabbed in the front. I'm sure you agree. They're making mincemeat of her.
Mm.
And time again, she comes out, she's holding her power. She believes in it, whatever it is. And I admire that. There is the divine feminine. Yeah, that's her truth.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Patricia. And we were obviously tapping into the same source there, because you were talking about rising up, and when you were talking, I was thinking, as soon as we get a chance, let's talk about UK politics, and you did exactly that. What is happening in England? And I'm not going to talk about Brexit. I'm not a politician, but I stay up to date with what is happening, because it's important, because light workers come in all shapes and sizes, and a lot of these women are doing the work of the divine feminine, just like Patricia said. I also don't happen to agree with everything Theresa May has done, our Prime Minister in England. But what I find really interesting, and this is perhaps a somewhat controversial stance, she's cleaning up a man's mess. That's what's happening with Theresa May, because it was David Cameron, the previous Prime Minister, who called the vote to leave the European Union. People voted to leave. That's what happens in democracy. We have a vote. And then in she comes. It was my auntie actually who said she's a very smart woman. She's been waiting in the wings, and she's been waiting for the right moment, watching everything. And now she's stepped in. And as Patricia says, she's so resilient. And what I find really interesting is she's cleaning up the mess of her predecessor, who happened to be male. And I find something about that so poignant. How many times was I in the corporate world cleaning up the mess of a male manager? All the freaking time. And I would love to go back 10 years as me now, like in the DeLorean, like in a time machine, and go back and be me now in that body and say, hell no. No, this is your responsibility to clean up your own mess. And that's what the rise is about. It's not about being unkind, but sometimes by not standing up for ourselves, we're being very unfair to ourselves. And so there's this feeling of the buck stops here, enough now. And what I particularly find interesting, and I'm going to move on from UK politics in a second, but it's just really niggling me because it's been in the news so much, is that with Theresa May, there's this old boys club. And I experienced that in the corporate world, and it's so insidious. And what it is, it's this group of baby boomer generation men who are very much, they're golf buddies. They went to the same private schools, and they kind of club together. And we saw that in the States as well with Dr. Ford, with the Dr. Ford trial. It's the same thing. It's this patriarchal group who were really suppressing goddess energy, who are suppressing the divine feminine. And what's so impressive is that we've had powerful women like Theresa May being resilient as hell. We've had so many women coming through in American politics and saying, I'm going to run. I don't care that I've not got political experience. The President of the United States doesn't either. So, excuse my French, fuck it, I'm going to do it. We've had this happen. And what's so interesting is what's happening politically, I think, is absolutely divinely orchestrated, because it's forcing us to go, no, this is not okay. And it's so interesting. I saw in my Facebook memories, it popped up recently. It must have been 2 years since Trump was elected. And I'd done a video on it, and I was like, I don't usually talk about politics. And I was so apologetic. And now I do. And I don't take that stance of, I don't know enough about politics. I shouldn't talk about this. It's happening in our world, and it's very, very real. These people are making decisions for our society. We need to be more involved. So yeah, I really am encouraged that Marianne Williamson is running. I mean, where do you want to go with the Marianne Williamson thing? What do you want to say about that, Patricia?
I just want to say brilliant, well done to her. And what I would say, just coming back to your group of guys, lovely chaps getting together, and they're scheming, plotting and scheming against Theresa May. What an amazing compliment. Wow, whole team of them have got to get together to fight one woman. Yeah. And for me, it's about all of us women remembering what I said to you, how clever we are, how intelligent, we're wise, we're intuitive, and we're aligned to the divine, to the divine goddess. Yeah. And so when I lead webinars, and I'll be doing some soon, taking people by visualization, by meditation, we go into whole different dimensions. And what we're doing there is harnessing the power of divine love, bringing it together and blasting it out. And that is the way to deal with this collective masculine, is to blast it with love, not anything else. If if you push against it with hatred or anything like that, it's going to push back. But it's very difficult. If I'm pouring love out to you, Cheryl, hopefully you would sit back and receive that beautifully and not send it off. Do you see?
Right.
So they won't even know it's happening. I led one at the beginning of this year with over 50 people together online, blasting Trump and the whole Korean situation with this amazing, powerful love. About 2 weeks later, the sister, Kim Jong-un's sister, came to the Olympics. He softened.
Wow.
Trump got together, and the whole Korean thing has resolved. Now, not just I did that group, but there are a whole lot of peace movements around the world who collectively get together in meditation and they blast the place. So you see, where is our focus taken? It's always taken to the negative, all the bad things that are happening in the world, the dark. Hello, the light is so alive and well. We are on it. And it's not a case of winning, but we're persevering, we're transforming, shifting, transmuting. And as far as I'm concerned, the light is shining on so many and in so many now that it makes way for the Marianne Williamson to be able to stand up and say, I'm standing for president. You're right. What you said, bang on, divinely orchestrated, and everything has its divine right timing. We need to also to remember that. They're giving me a big shiver here to remind me about that.
Yeah, it's and something I'm being reminded of as you talk about blasting with light, and it's so beautiful what you were doing politically. I know when that was happening, I was not in a place to be able to blast them with love. I'm going to be completely honest, I was not in that state. But what's happened in the Divine Feminine Collective is we haven't been able to harness our, as you say so beautifully, Patricia, your love power, because we've opened up this, I'm seeing something like kind of old and kind of wooden and natural, but just something that's just cracking open and it's breaking and it's messy and it's oozing out like all kinds of goo and unpleasantness. And that's what happened with the Me Too movement, which actually is only a year ago. I was reminded recently that it was just over a year ago that Me Too happened. And I remember at that time talking about it on social media and posting the hashtag Me Too, and it was revolutionary at that time for us all to say, I've been sexually assaulted. And it was incredible. It was a beautiful moment. Then what happened was all of this divine feminine pain, not just from this lifetime, but from our whole ancestral line, came up in this volcano of pain and showered down onto the masculine. So what I'd really like to talk about now is, and we've touched on our rise of the divine feminine, but what about the masculine? Because it's a very difficult time to be a man. So how can we rise as the divine feminine without ostracizing the masculine collective? How can we support them in their rise and their ascension? Because we need them. So what can we do, Patricia? Help us out here.
That's a wonderful question. I love that. Well, do you know what? It's about balance, Cheryl. Within myself and balancing, the feminine had to come up considerably to meet the masculine in me. I mirror you. Left brain, la, corporate world, okay. And now there is a balance because my creativity has come way up. So when you really allow the goddess to take up her place within you, she is going to bring you from those lower chakras you were talking about. She's going to bring you all of that creativity, but based on a very solid foundation, coming out through this throat. And that's where your masculine comes in to support. Now, I'm blessed. Bill is really a wonderful man, And he has that softness. He really gets me. We sit and blurb but cheerful at the same things on telly and whatnot. Very in touch with that side of himself. But remember, what is so wonderful here is as we acknowledge, recognize, and allow our goddesses to come up, guess what happens in your man? Yeah, the same. He can acknowledge his divine feminine and allow her to come up. So he's actually achieved a beautiful balance, which I believe mirrors. That's why this is my third marriage. So a few years ago, I might have needed your help with relationship, but I think I've got it sorted now. But here we go. Here is the mirror of that beautiful. And he is a man's man, don't get me wrong. He's got all of that masculinity too. So it's about marrying the two within. And we spoke about this before we came on air. It's about making sure your balance in here is right. Then that goes outside. Yeah. As you said, don't marry someone because you feel they're going to fill up that bit of you. I need you so much. Haha. No, you should be able to be independent within a beautiful relationship. Yeah. So it's about acknowledgement, and it's about seeing her and hearing her. And I believe the more we do this for ourselves, the more these guys out there, and I'm sending them love. Yeah. I'm not sending them anything else, because bless them, they've actually come quite a long road in a short space of time. It's like a tsunami. Some of them don't know what's hit them. The goalposts have suddenly shifted. It used to be okay for them to make slightly sexy jokes or whatever at work. Now they're going to get pulled up on it immediately. You cannot say that to that person or even touch them on the leg to say, oh, come on, then we'll do this. You know, for me, I'm not sure. I don't work in an office place now or out in the corporate. I wonder what it's like. Younger women doing that these days, you know. Because, you know, also I have a great sense of humour, and I like to express that. And I think maybe it could have cut down on some of the humour that is there between men and women, banter, if you like. So at what point does banter stop and serious, you know, insulting, disrespectful behaviour starts? So, you know, there's a whole mishmash in there. But I just reckon we've got to love them. If we approach it with anything less than love and acceptance and showing them the way, because this is all about women remembering how powerful they are. That's really, isn't it? And we are the powerful ones, Cheryl. We're the really intelligent ones. We just haven't been seen because the men took up the whole stage. Bless them. Their turn's over. I reckon we're going to see more and more women out there talking at things and stepping up and speaking out. It's on. We're talking about the rise of the divine feminine. We're not finished yet. Yeah. I reckon, you know, I wonder, I don't have my dowser here, but you know, I wonder what 100% would look like. We're probably at about 45, 50 at the moment. So we've got all of that way to go. What is the tipping point? Just over the 50. Yeah. Yeah. Whoosh. Yeah. So that and now the 45, 50 just came in, and I did draw a few cards before we came on. And the most beautiful one, these aren't my cards, just a friend, and this just says soul purpose. Wow. So it just validates for me that our soul purpose as conscious women, because anyone that's attracted to listen to this, they're well into their spiritual journey, yeah? And they're acknowledging, this is my reason for being here. This is why I chose to show up now. This was my contract, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, do you agree? Yeah, thank you so much, Patricia. There's so much in there, and there's so many different directions I could take with that. But what I really heard, particularly initially, was that
The rise of the divine feminine impacts the masculine so positively. It's not just about the rise of the divine masculine. It's that when we're rising in this divine feminine power and we're flooding this feminine energy out into the world, it gives the masculine permission to no longer be in this, and this is a very well worn out phrase, potentially overused, but move out of this toxic masculinity of I'm looking for sex and power and money, and actually step into a much more loving place.
Yes.
I don't want to say a more feminine place, because I know for a lot of men, they hear this and they go, oh no. What it means is in a way that's appropriate for a man, stepping into how he feels, his emotions, using his emotional intelligence, which, by the way, if there's any men watching, which I'm sure there is on the DL, because I have a lot of men who follow my content, but you guys are very quiet, I know, because I get messages from you thanking me for my work. But if you're watching this, you know, your emotional intelligence and your heart far outweighs the power of your, albeit magnificent, brains and your intellect. This eternal, this infinite wisdom, this ancient wisdom that you have in your heart, once you tap into that, that's really, really powerful. And you'll be making decisions in business based on intuition. Your gut is never wrong. And I suspect many of the men watching this are actually already very awake and very conscious. You'll know if you have a client who you're just like, you know, I get a bad feeling about him and I don't know why. That's your intuition, right? And so many of you are actually already very tapped in, but perhaps don't use the same terminology as myself and Patricia. But yeah, what I heard from you, Patricia, really is that by us rising into our divine feminine power, but allowing the masculine to get in touch with a part of themselves that they were told for so long wasn't okay to feel as a man. So this impacts so many of us. And you know, I'm also reminded of something that Marianne Williamson said recently. I'm really on the Marianne Williamson train at the moment, really, really gung-ho. She said recently in a course that I took about teaching the teachers, it was a really beautiful product she put together. She was talking about Me Too, the Me Too movement, and what you were talking about, Patricia, of being in an office and this kind of environment of it's not okay to do this, and when does a joke cross the line, and all those kinds of issues of appropriate behavior. And she said the phrase, the power to accuse must be wielded mercifully. And we're really at a point now where Me Too is a year in and all this collective pain is unleashed. It's now our responsibility to heal our own shit, right? If we are feeling really angry at men because we've been assaulted, dare I say, raped, abused, whatever might have happened to us before this point now, we need to heal that, because if we carry that pain, we're just perpetuating that cycle. And that doesn't mean that what happened to you wasn't horrific. It doesn't mean that anything happened was in any means your fault, but it's now our responsibility to take that pain and transmute it into something more loving. Now, while that sounds really spiritual and woo-woo, the work can be really tough. It can be going to counseling, crying it out, releasing all of that. But it's really, really important that we do that, so that when, as divine feminines, when we're rising into these positions of power, we're not actually doing the same thing that the patriarchy has been doing all this time. We want to bring balance to it. We don't want to be effectively women making decisions for women. We want to be women making decisions for the best of everyone. So that's something that I really wanted to bring up as well, in terms of healing ourselves first.
Yes, and I love that. And I didn't realise Marianne had obviously touched on that kind of thing, but the power to accuse should definitely be used with mercy, without doubt.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I did draw some cards, I can't help it.
Oh, I love it.
You mentioned intuition, and that was the second card I drew.
Wow.
Because men are now listening more to their intuition, which is a godsend, because Bill, actually, I tell him, I say, gosh, you don't know how psychic you are. You're just amazing. And he is. He can bring forward beautiful messages and be absolutely on the ball. More psychic than me. I channel, and there is a slight difference there. But you know what, Cheryl, I think you're absolutely on the ball about all of this. It is about balance. Yes, the divine feminine has had to be fired up because it was so depleted within we women and within men. And what I would love every woman on the planet to do is find more self-respect, self-honor, self-value, to know how worthy we are to receive. Because for so long we've been suppressed, we've been oppressed, we've been repressed. I just usually say all the presses, and then guess what? We get depressed, you know. So that is why it's symptomatic. Depression is symptomatic of not acknowledging all of you in a spiritual and cellular way. So when I hear, we watch, you know, occasionally we hear about farmers, perhaps they're committing suicide at the most awful rates, and young men, there's a high prevalence of suicide in young men. So there is depression on a massive scale. And it's because they are not seeing, it is my belief, my point of view, all of what and who they are. And I think a lot of that's got to do with the fact that we are living in a post-religious time. People have thrown religion out, and on my behalf, my belief would be rightly, I think there was so much distortion in there that it couldn't survive the way it was. But you see, nothing has come in to replace it. Nothing for the ordinary people that used to all go to church or whatever. Where is that spiritual aspect of life? Where has that gone? How is it being expressed? So for me, there's a gap now for society that we do need to fill. Now, a lot of people are stepping in and saying, well, mindfulness, living in this present moment, acknowledging everything and everyone, wonderful. But there we go, we're back to the mind again. Hello, masculine, yeah. What about the heart? What about heartfulness and really connecting with that and the goddess? And every man who's ever climbed a Munro in Scotland, looking out at the vista around them from Ben Lomond or Ben Nevis, sees this magnificent planet from a whole different perspective. Surely that surge of spirituality, and I've never done that, but Bill has described it to me because he does all these things. You know, he says that reaffirms that there is, of course, a massive guiding energy here. We call it the universe. And the universe is providing from moment to moment with every breath we take. So for me, there's a bit of a gap where religion exited, and now there's no acknowledgement of a loving, living, all creative force. I'm not saying God on purpose, because people abreact to that these days, but it's interesting. There is the gap for me.
Yeah, I love that you talked about the gap. There is a gap, and I feel that what's rushing in to meet it is I'm going to call it the mindfulness movement, which you touched on. And it's I keep seeing adverts from, I think it's an app called Calm, popping up on my YouTube channel. It keeps popping up. And I think it's beautiful that we're talking about this, but my concern is that the mindfulness movement is another corporate machine, because it's download the app, pay for this. And I'm not dissing Calm, because I'm sure they're doing beautiful work, but just in general, this movement of find your purpose, pay me money to find out what your purpose is. And the personal development industry in the spiritual space is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the US alone. It's a very lucrative line of work, and dare I say, not everyone in it is there for the right reasons, because it's a business, it's an industry. There's money to be made, there's jobs to be had. And so we need to be really, really careful with the whole mindfulness thing. Are we just feeding into another corporate machine? So in terms of what's in the gap, and I think the patriarchy in general can be very elusive, dare I say sneaky, in continuing this kind of corporate machine of find your purpose, but you've got to come to this seminar and pay us X amount to find your purpose, you know, all that kind of stuff. So what is rushing in the gap? I feel like it's altruism and kindness. It's charity, it's giving. And I feel like that is very non-denominational. There's no religion or belief system that really overrides that. It transcends all of that. I think it's this general kindness towards other people, being a good human, helping other people out. And even those that don't necessarily consider themselves as being very spiritual, woo-woo, or religious. Just know that it feels good to help people, and it feels good to be helped and to be supported, and to do that without wanting anything back. Now, we have to be really careful, because if we happen to be very codependent, we can give and give and give and give and get depleted, and that's a whole other topic for another time. But I think generally what's rushing in to fill the gap is this kindness of one another, because we're all really craving that. We're also love starved, and so we look for love in all the wrong places, which of course is very much part of the work that I do. And it's so interesting, you were talking about building up self-respect, self-worth, self-esteem, because I'm actually running a challenge in my membership group Infinite Love next week about that very thing. How do we build up our self-respect, our self-trust, our self-esteem? And each day there's going to be a new challenge, and I'll probably end up sharing it publicly, because I have the goods anyway. I think I'll share that publicly because it's so needed. But when we have that, when we trust ourselves, when we really respect ourselves and really honor who we are, and I'm not going to say self-love, because that phrase has been so bastardized really, and turned into something that it's not. But when we really honor ourselves deeply, we say no to things that we need to say no to, and we don't do it in a dramatic way of slamming doors and calling names and all of that high drama, which actually comes from a wound anyway. That I call it the drama wound. It's that wounded little girl who didn't get attention from her dad, only got attention when she was causing a big fuss, and we kind of build up this story of, to get attention, to be worthy of love, I need to cause a big stink and be dramatic. So that it's true, right? So it all comes back to, what we saw modeled when we were children, and of course beyond that, past lives come into play as well. But yeah, when we really respect ourselves and we love ourselves, we're able to rise up, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. So it's brilliant that we're talking about this, but I really want to place the emphasis on the individual, because we've been talking about the collective, but we need to make sure we're doing the work as well. Would you agree, Patricia?
Absolutely, it is. It's down to us to learn to honor and really value, and to understand that this physical body here is really a house for our spirit or soul, whatever you care to call it. I sat beside my mum for a week before she passed away, and I was holding her hand when her heart stopped beating, and her beloved soul left her body. And suddenly my mum, who was what you would call a solid woman, Cheryl, not heavy or fat, but just solid, and suddenly her body just shrunk, because the life force, her soul, was going back home, and the peace, and her whole physical body just shrunk, and just totally relaxed, obviously. But I saw that happen. I was with her. I always promised her I would be with her in that moment. And it was a beautiful moment. But what it did to me, it totally validated the fact we are spiritual beings. We are spirit having a human experience. So we come in, we occupy this body. We seem to spend such a lot of time worrying about what it looks like, or is it too fat, is it too thin, what colour's my hair, and it's not that we don't want to honour and respect it. We do need to do that, but we also need to get it into perspective. It is the vehicle. And what I notice is, with the collective view of that, is, now remember your TV. I am a hypnotherapist, but the TV in your front room is the biggest hypnotic force you will ever encounter. So all the time it's blasting you with messages about how you should look, how you should be, what you should be buying. And of course that reinforces this thing that we women can fall into very easily. It's a sort of less than, not good enough, competing. I've got to get those shoulder pads so that I look as good as so and so. That's me going back to the 80s, sorry. But you know what I mean? It's like, wow, how can you compare yourself to anybody else on this planet? There are 8 million people on this planet. There's only one Cheryl Muir. with your DNA, with your eye print, your voice print, your heart print, your thumbprint. They broke the mold after they made you. Okay. So how could you walk into a room and compare yourself to anyone? You're unique. And so when women really get that and understand that, well, okay, we all got strong points, we got weaker points, and it's about majoring on those strong points, isn't it? It's about really stepping into the power. I'm a really good writer and I write beautiful things for magazines and I'm writing my book and I've got lots of lovely truth to share, and stepping into the power of that, acknowledging it. Whereas the girl next to you, she might be, well, I'm this amazing singer and I'm going to do opera and I'm this and I'm that. And it's about us all celebrating each other's gifts and talents and collaborating, knitting together, supporting each other in this continued rise of the divine feminine, and releasing the need to backstab, to gossip, to undermine, to copy. You'll always get people that will copy your work. People used to say to me, oh, that's a compliment. It is in a way, but it also shows you that person isn't ready to acknowledge and grab their own thing. It tells you that about them. And it's a difficult one, you know. But, you know, I drew another card. I drew a few cards. Now, this one says dawning. But also the yellow tells you it's coming from the third chakra, the solar plexus, the willpower. And you've got your two pillars here and the sun is in the middle. And I always view that as a portal, a door opening. And so the door to the complete rise of the divine feminine is open, about 45%, but I do think it's going to rush through very quickly. And we were chatting before, and we were saying this feels like a quiet time just now, and it's like things are gathering energy, and then there's going to be a burst, a tsunami of something, which brought me to the next one, because you see the divine feminine does have to come into alignment. It needs to come into alignment with our own being first, and then it will come into alignment with every man and woman on this planet, not just the women. So I feel this coming year, and I know a lot of people are going there already, but 2019, very, very powerful, because it's a 3, 2019, all adds up to 3, as above, so below. So for me, that is creating what we would regard to be very high vibrational calibration and frequencies appearing on Earth. And so we will rise up. We will. We're on our way. I'm excited. Are you excited?
We have a lot of exciting things to look forward to in 2019, and I'm really glad you touched on what can stop us from rising, because one of the little talking points I had, and we both had, was she rises, why can't I? And you touched on that so beautifully without us really having to consciously talk about it, which is there's no one else with your exact mix of experience, skills, soul experiences, soul memories, soul lessons, soul purpose. And that's without even going into things like personality, culture, the environment that you were raised in, no matter whether that was a positive or a slightly more challenging experience for you. It's all made you who you are, and there is no one exactly like you, and you are needed. So if you're watching this and you're inspired, then go do the thing that you've been thinking about doing. It's more than likely going to be different than myself, different than Patricia. It may not be politics, it may be some other form of really leadership, leading from the heart, and we need so much more of that. So I really invite all of you to do that. I know we've got a couple of minutes left here, so where do you want to go with this, Patricia? Do you want to see if anyone has any questions? I guess if people do have questions, just pop it in the chat box while we're talking here, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. Patricia, do you have any closing thoughts, feelings?
I want to say one thing, because
yeah,
one of my cards, and that was magic, and it's Sarah. Okay, now just to open everybody's minds, Sarah would be Mary Magdalene and Yeshua's daughter. Okay, there's where I'm working. I'm bringing through Magdalene to me is the symbol of the divine feminine. So I channel a lot of her information, and she is at great pains today for us all to remember we've got our own particular essence of magic, and it's like fairy dust, and you can spread it as you go through life. So remember that. And I'm seeing Jane. Jane is on my Magdalene leadership group. And these are monthly groups that I'm running, Cheryl. I'm not selling anything. And we have an amazing time. And we're building leaders. And when I say we, I'm talking about the collective illumined beings of light. I'm their channel. I bring it through. I love it. I love my work. Very, very happy. And it would be lovely to hear from some of these beautiful souls who are on.
Absolutely. And while we're just sort of talking and giving our closing remarks, final thoughts, whatever else is going to come through from the ethers, I'm just keeping an eye on the chat box here to see if anyone asks any questions. If you don't have any questions, that's absolutely okay. But we did want to open up the floor to you just in case you have any questions, comments, whatever it might be. And if you're watching this on the replay, then by all means comment down below and let us know your biggest takeaway, and not just the words of wisdom that you've sourced and mined from this beautiful conversation we've had today, but also let us know, what are you going to do? Because that is really the balanced, healed, healthy feminine, the powerful feminine, who is in touch with her feminine and her masculine energies in balance. So there's action as well. What are you actually going to do? It doesn't mean you're going to run for president or prime minister necessarily, although if you do, that's wonderful as well. But what actions are you going to take? And when you declare that publicly, something happens within us. We already know we're now accountable to other people, even if it's just in a subconscious way, being accountable to the collective because you've declared it boldly and publicly. So I really invite you to do that. And I'm hearing as well, it's safe for you to do that. Patricia talked earlier and mentioned about sticking your head above the parapet and feeling unsafe to do that. This is very much in line with Patricia's teachings as well. But as women, we have been persecuted for speaking our truth. I was reading something the other day about people who were burned at the stake as witches, and that happened as recently as in the late 1800s in certain parts of Europe. And so our soul stores that memory of either witnessing that happen, or dare I say, that happening to us as well in a previous incarnation, in a past life. And so what those women did, these witches, they were healers. They were truth tellers. They were using their voice. And so sometimes we feel like it's not safe for us to do that, and we don't even know why. And it's because we're carrying that soul memory with us. So by all means, do a past life regression on that if that would help you. Patricia's far too modest to say how wonderful and gifted she is at past life regression, but I really recommend you to check her out on that. I've been really, really helped by Patricia in her past life regressions. She's really, really super at this work. But yeah, so it is safe for you to declare boldly what you're going to do, and this is part of our work here. This is why we're here now. It's not an accident. It's not an accident that in the past 20, 30 years, in the 80s actually, when I arrived on the planet in this body, in this form, that was the start really of things like Apple computers and that kind of real, I mean, it was a little bit before that, but really when technology started to rise up, and we've seen so much even in the past 10 years. It's not an accident that that's happening now, so that we can do something like this, and Patricia and I can talk. Okay, she's only in Scotland and I'm only in the north of England. We're geographically not that far away, but that you can all join us and watch this recording if you're watching it later on. It's really not an accident that this technology is available to us now, so use it. Patricia and I all have communities on social media. Please go and check us out there. We'll give our handles and our websites and things at the end, but use these mediums that we have. They're here for a reason. They're divinely orchestrated. So please do declare your intentions below of what you're going to do, and it is very, very safe for you to be powerful, for you to be loving, and for you to go for what it is you are called to do, because that is why you are here.
I cannot add a word to that. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
You are wonderful. So articulate, Cheryl, and a great gift to us all.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're doing wonderful work with your relationship, the twin flame aspect of things, not one that I've gone into at all. So it's quite a unique niche for you, I feel. and it's going to go from strength to strength. I don't have any doubt about that.
Thank you.
So bless you, and thank you for sharing everything you've shared with us today. We are so simpatico and yet so many years apart, but you know, that's just fab. Maybe you were my daughter or something in a past life.
I think so. I was just, as you were talking, I'm like, there's something past life here. We don't know what it is, but that's what's so beautiful though about this time, is that we're encountering people that we've known from that our soul knows. Let's not say, maybe I won't say past lives, because some people might be a little, you know, out there for you right now, but it's people that our soul knows, and it's people that you meet who you're instantly connected to them, and they help you on your journey, and that's really beautiful. And you know, Patricia and I are really honored to have had this conversation today. So Patricia, where can people find you on social media, your website? Where can they go to?
Well, I'm delighted for you to subscribe to my website. It's www.patriciairiskerins.com, and you will receive a free ebook, and that will be sent to you. And I mean, I am so deeply into Mary Magdalene's work. Just beautiful, gentle, loving, very powerful work, because she's got her lioness right beside her walking along. So there's fire in the belly there. And then on Facebook, I am simply at the Magdalene Key, and that will take you on to my page. And I have Magdalene Movement Group, and then I have Magdalene Leadership Retreats here, 5.5 acres of amazing, beautiful land. And I've got my temple in the woods up there, where I commune with Mother Earth and the angels. You are all so welcome here. Just lovely to see you. And Cheryl, that would be lovely to see you here at some point. That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I'm on Twitter, and Patricia_Iris, you know, LinkedIn. So feel free, just put in Patricia Iris Kerins probably, and you'll get it. So that's me. Cheryl, how about you?
Beautiful. Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, if people want to find me, my website is cherylmuir.com, and I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. My handles in all those places are at Cheryl J. Muir. I talk a lot about twin flames, karmic partners. Really, if you've been losing your worth in other people, be it romantic partners or really anyone else, I really talk about that a lot. I really blend the traditional and the spiritual. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, and you've liked my style and my vibe and the way I deliver this work, then please do feel welcome to connect with me there. If you want to work with me, I have private coaching. That's on my website too. And I also have a really beautiful community for women who are really trying to find their self again after a relationship, whether it's a twin flame or a karmic partner, or just someone who's really unsettled you emotionally. There's something going on there, and I'd love to really help you with that. So that group is called Infinite Love. It's a paid membership. It's really beautiful. We have group coaching calls every month. There's lots of goodies. We're running a challenge next week with tasks about building your self-worth and your self-love. I'm in the group every day. So I really invite you to join us there. And, you know, like Patricia and I have said, just connect with us on social media, stay in touch, follow our work, connect with other people who know our work. That's how you find your soul family. And we're very happy to be people who bring you together and help you to meet people that you've known previously and that really help you with your soul's work. So I think that's everything. Patricia, is there anything else you'd like to say before we close this conversation off today?
All of that was beautiful. Thank you very much. Lots of opportunities there for people to connect with us both. And really, I would just like to put it out there, Cheryl, I think, well, I certainly enjoyed this conversation. I hope you did. And I'm sure we'll get back together in the future. And who knows, that could be exciting too. Because there's loads of different things to discuss. We could talk till the cows come home. You do realise that.
It's so funny you say until the cows come home. I'm in an area of England called the Lake District, and there is plenty of farms, cows, sheep, you name it. So yeah, quite often an excuse for being late for school when I was a kid was, I'm sorry I'm late, there were cows on the road. That was a legitimate reason and very valid. If the cows are crossing from one field or another, you're not going anywhere. So the phrase until the cows come home, I know that in a very real way.
Okay, I get you.
Beautiful.
Tracy's
Well,
just
go ahead.
there, and thank you, Tracy, for showing up. That was wonderful. Did you see her message?
I did. Tracy's saying thank you, beautiful goddesses, kiss, kiss, kiss. Thank you very much, Tracy, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think now is the time for us to sign off. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And remember to let us know, if you're watching on the replay, do let us know what action you're going to take, because once you declare that, that's a very, very powerful intention. Again, you can find Patricia and I on all the social medias. Just pop our name into the various social media machines. You'll find us there. And we're sending you tons and tons of love. Bye for now.
Bye.